In this video, we are going to discuss some important spotters in thorax. Okay. So whatever possible spotters related to lungs, we are going to discuss in this video. Okay. So moving to the first spotters, can you please try to identify the pinned area? The question is identify the side of the organ and mention the impression created in the pinned area. Okay. So can you tell me whether this one is right lung or left lung? Any idea? Yes, this is the right lung actually. Okay. So there are certain points for determining the side of the lung. Okay. So I will tell you shortly. So this one is right lung, and remember the area I am marking now is called as Hylam of lung. Okay. Hylam or root of lung, this area. Okay. So just above the Hylam of right lung, the impression is marked. Okay. So I hope you will be knowing this one. But yes, above the hilum of right lung, acygos vein will be arching. Okay. So the impression of the pinned area is formed by arch of acygos vein. Fine. Arch of acygos vein arches over the hilum of right lung. Fine. Okay. See this second spotter question. Again, here also, this is the hilum. Okay, what we are seeing here is the hilum of the left lung actually. This one is left lung. Okay. So the side determination is of the organ is left lung. Okay. And the impression at the marked area is formed by an area just above the hilum of left lung. The impression is created by arch of aorta. Fine. Arch of aorta. Okay. So now the question arises how to determine whether it is right lung or left lung, isn't it? So usually we will be trying to decide the lung, whether it is right lung or left lung, by looking at the number of lobes and fissures, isn't it? But the number of lobes and fissures in lungs, it is not constant. Okay, usually we can say right lung consists of 3 lobes, 2 fissures. Left lung consists of 2 lobes separated by 1 fissure, but it is not constant. So always remember the right and left lungs will be differentiated, distinguished by the borders, by mainly by the borders. Okay, the anterior border of the lungs will be thin and sharp, whereas the posterior border of the lungs will be just opposite, thick and blunt. Okay, so that will help us to determine the side of the lung. Okay, and in the previous 2 spotter questions just now we have seen just above the hilum of the lungs the particular area has been marked. Okay, so as we studied, the hilum of right lung is arched by arch of acygos vein, and the hilum of left lung is arched by arch of aorta. Okay, so the basic thing is you have to determine the side of the lung, whether it is right lung or left lung. Okay, then only you can write whether the impression is created by arch of aorta or arch of acygos vein. Okay, so once again, actually for this specimen, this is anterior, this is posterior. Okay, and this is above, superior, inferior. Okay, so are you able to see? I am tracing the anterior border of the right lung. Okay, which is thin and sharp, isn't it? What about the posterior border? This is the posterior border of the lung, posterior border of the lung, which is almost just opposite to the anterior border. It is almost blunt and thick. Okay, thick. Okay, fine. Anterior border is thin and sharp. Posterior border is thick and blunt. Okay, fine. And can you tell me which surface of the lung you are seeing here? In both these images, you are seeing the mediastinal surface of the right lung and left lung. Okay, fine. Now, some other important points related to the lungs. Okay. So this is the right lung and this one is left lung. So in each lung, the apex is directed upwards and the base is directed downwards. Okay. And the base is resting over the right and left domes of the diaphragm. So the another name for the base is diaphragmatic surface. Okay. Apex is directed upwards, base is directed downwards, base is resting over the domes of diaphragm, so called as diaphragmatic surface. Okay. So you can see clearly the anterior border of the right and left lung, anterior border of the right and left lung, right? And now I am tracing the posterior border. Okay. Everything is labeled here. Okay. Anterior border, and this is the posterior border of the lungs. Okay. Posterior border of the lungs, which is thick and blunt. Fine. Okay. And there is one more border. Okay. Other than anterior border, posterior border, the lung also consists of inferior border, the one I am tracing now. Inferior border. Okay. Inferior border, this one. Inferior border. Okay. Which is rounded or semilunar shaped. Okay. It is rounded or semilunar shaped, whatever. And as I told already, we are seeing the mediastinal surface of the lungs in this diagram. Mediastinal surface, which should be facing medially towards the mediastinum, medially. Okay. Other than mediastinal surface, what is the one more surface of the lungs? Costal surface, which is directed outwards. Okay, outwards. Okay, costal surface. Okay, I will come to this slide little later. So since the mediastinal surface of lung is an important short notes, okay, I am going into the depth of this topic, little detail, okay, about the mediastinal surface of both lungs. Okay, so when the mediastinal surface of right lung or left lung is asked, okay, we have to take care of two things. One is relations, otherwise impressions on the mediastinal surface of lungs. Another one is arrangement of structures at the hilum of lungs. Arrangement of structures at the hilum of lungs. Okay. So see here, you know the location of hilum or root of right lung. In this diagram, right lung is shown. So hilum or root of right lung, you are able to see. Okay. So just in front of the, okay, just in front of the hilum of right lung, we have the cardiac impression, which is produced by right atrium chamber of the heart. Okay. Cardiac impression produced by right atrium chamber of the heart. So, you know, right atrium receives SVC in the upper part and IVC in the lower part. Okay. So just above and just below the cardiac impression, we have the SVC impression and IVC impression, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava impression. Okay. And you know, the ascigas vein finally drains into superior vena cava. That is the structure, as we studied already, that is the structure which arches over the hilum of the right lung. Okay, arch of ascigas vein. Okay. And you can see clearly just behind the hilum of the right lung, we have the impression created by esophagus. Esophagus impression will be there. And in the upper part of the right lung, you can see the impression of trachea and esophagus also. Just behind the trachea, we have the esophagus impression. Okay. So these are the main impressions on the mediastinal surface of right lung. What are they? Yes, the main impression, most important impression is cardiac impression produced by right atrium. Just above and below the cardiac impression, we have the SVC, IVC impression. Then we have the arch of ascigas vein impression just above the hilum. Just behind the hilum, we have the esophageal impression. And in the upper part of the mediastinal surface of right lung, we have the trachea, and just behind the trachea, we have the esophagus impression. Fine. And what are the neural structures related to the hilum of the lungs? Neural, nervous structures related to the hilum of the lungs. just in front of the hilum of both lungs, we have the phrenic nerve, just in front of the hilum of lungs. Are you able to see the yellow color structure running in just in front of hilum? That is phrenic nerve. Just behind the hilum of lungs, we have the vagus nerve passing. Okay, fine. And when you talk about the mediastinal surface of left lung, what are the relations? Here again, the main relation is cardiac impression produced by which chamber of the heart? Yes, on the mediastinal surface of left lung, the cardiac impression is produced by left ventricle chamber of the heart. Left ventricle. Okay, left ventricle. Okay, and you know, from the left ventricle, we have the beginning of ascending aorta. And the ascending aorta continues as arch of aorta, which arches over the hilum of the left lung, which continues downwards as what? Descending thoracic aorta. Okay, so cardiac impression is produced by left ventricle, then ascending aorta, arch of aorta, descending thoracic aorta. Okay. So in front of hilum of left lung, we have the aorta. The above the hilum of the left lung, we have arch of aorta impression. Behind the hilum of left lung, we have the descending thoracic aorta impression. Okay, and you know, from the arch of aorta, we have three main branches, out of which the left common carotid artery and the left subclavian artery impressions will be there from the upper part of arch of aorta. Okay? And as I told already, the phrenic nerve will be passing just in front of hilum of right and left lungs, and the vagus nerve will be running just behind the hilum or root of both right and left lungs. Okay, fine. Now, so I have talked about the relations or impressions on the mediastinal surface of both lungs. Okay, now let me talk about the hilum of the right and left lungs and the structures arrangement. Okay, please listen. The hilum of right lung as well as left lung will be having structures like pulmonary artery, one pulmonary artery, two pulmonary veins, superior and inferior pulmonary veins, and bronchus. These are the main structures passing through the hilum of right lung as well as left lung. Okay, what are they? Pulmonary artery, then two pulmonary veins, superior and inferior pulmonary veins, then bronchus. And remember, the hilum of right lung contains two bronchi. Instead of one bronchus, the hilum of right lung contains two bronchi. One is located just above the pulmonary artery. So what is the name of the bronchus? Epi or arterial bronchus. Okay, which is labeled here as E. And are you able to see something labeled here as H? Hypo means below. Okay, hypoarterial bronchus. So pulmonary artery is marked with the blue color because you know it carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, and the superior pulmonary vein, inferior pulmonary vein, both are colored with red because the pulmonary veins carry oxygenated blood to the lungs. Okay, to the heart, from the lungs towards the heart. Okay, fine. So I humbly request you to practice this diagram. Okay, the structures arrangement at the hilum of right lung. Okay, so as I told just now, epiarterial bronchus is the topmost structure at the hilum of right lung. Then we have pulmonary artery. Then we have hypoarterial bronchus. Then anteriorly we have superior pulmonary vein anteriorly, and inferiorly we have inferior pulmonary vein. Okay, and just below the hilum of lung, there is one downward extension, okay, of the pleura called as pulmonary ligament. This one, pulmonary ligament. This one, okay, pulmonary ligament. Fine. And try to remember the vertebral level of the root of lung or hilum of lung will be T5 to T7, T5 to T7 vertebrae. Okay. So from this diagram, okay, as we discussed just now, can you tell me the arrangement of structures at the hilum of right lung from above downwards? Above downwards. Yes, epiarterial bronchus, pulmonary artery, hyparterial bronchus. Then we have inferior pulmonary vein, right? And can you tell me the structures arrangement at the hilum of right lung from before backwards, anterior to posterior, before backwards? Yes, VAB. Okay. So we have the superior pulmonary vein, that is the anterior most structure. Okay. Superior pulmonary vein. Okay. And then pulmonary artery, and then we have bronchus. Specifically, it is hyparterial bronchus, hyparterial bronchus. Okay. So this is about the arrangement of structures at the hilum of right lung from above downwards, from before backwards. Okay. Yes. Now moving to the hilum of the left lung. Okay. So again, see this diagram. So you have the orientation of which is anterior, posterior, superior, inferior for this diagram. Okay. So only in the hilum of right lung we have two bronchi, eparterial bronchus, hyparterial bronchus, whereas in the hilum of left lung we have only one bronchus, that is left main bronchus. Fine. Okay. So the topmost structure at the hilum of the left lung is pulmonary artery, and just below the pulmonary artery we have the left main bronchus, and below that we have inferior pulmonary vein. Okay. Again, here also the anterior most structure at the hilum of left lung also, it is superior pulmonary vein. Fine. So can you tell me the arrangement of structures at the hilum of left lung from above downwards? Yes, the topmost structure at the hilum of left lung is left pulmonary artery. Below that you are able to see the left main bronchus. Even below that we have the pulmonary vein, specifically inferior pulmonary vein, right? Then what is the arrangement of structures from before backwards, that is from anterior to posterior? Yes, again here also VAB. Similar to the hilum of right lung, in left lung also the structures arrangement from anterior to posterior, that is before backwards, is same, VAB. Vein, artery, bronchus. Okay. Superior pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery. Here it is left main bronchus. Fine. Yes. Now, when you talk about the relations of the hilum of lungs, okay, you can simply remember anterior relation for hilum of both lungs will be phrenic nerve. Already I have told you. And the posterior relation for hilum of both lungs will be vagus nerve. Okay, phrenic nerve passes in front and the vagus nerve passes behind the hilum of lungs. And what is the superior relation for hilum of lungs? Yes, there is difference. Already we have studied the hilum of right lung is arched by arch of azygos vein, and hilum of left lung is arched by arch of aorta. Okay. And what is the inferior relation for the hilum of both lungs? Yes, there is one downward extension called as pulmonary ligament. Okay. So anterior, posterior, inferior relations you can make common for hilum of both lungs. The superior relation will be different for hilum of both lungs. Okay, fine. And as I told already, the vertebral level of hilum of lungs will be T5 to T7 vertebrae. Fine. Yes. Now coming to the next spotters question. So I think you can answer this question. Which lung you are seeing here? Yes, this is the right lung, isn't it? You are seeing the right lung. You know how to determine the side of lung, isn't it? By looking at the anterior border and the posterior border, isn't it? And this is the mediastinal surface of the lung. Okay, right lung. So the question is, identify the side of organ. You have identified it correctly as right lung. The next question, identify the impression created. Which structure is producing the impression at the marked area? Already we have studied. You can answer. Yes, this is the cardiac impression. Okay. And you know the cardiac impression on the mediastinal surface of the right lung is produced by which chamber? Exactly, right atrium of the heart. Okay. So the impression created at the pinned area is produced by right atrium of heart. Okay, cardiac impression produced by right atrium. Fine. Yes. Now, answer this question. Identify the side of the organ. What is the answer? Yes, this is the left lung. Okay, this is the left lung. Okay, then the sub question is exactly identify the impression created at the pinned area. Again, here also this is also the cardiac impression, and you know the cardiac impression on the mediastinal surface of left lung is produced by which chamber of the heart? Yes, it is left ventricle. Left ventricle. Fine. Yes. Now, moving to the next spotters question. Identify the side of organ. Again, this is left lung. And okay. Otherwise, the first question itself, identify the pinned area. Anybody? What is the tongue-like projection which is pinned in this diagram? Exactly. This is the lingula. Okay. The tongue-like projection you are seeing in this image, pinned area is lingula. Lingula. Okay. So lingula is a tongue-like projection. Okay. Tongue-like projection. So what will be the sub-question for the lingula? So lingula is a part of, okay, the pinned area is a part of, maybe a sub-question. Yes, it is a part of left lung. Okay, which lobe of left lung? Is it upper lobe or lower lobe of left lung? Upper lobe. Okay, lingula is a part of upper lobe of left lung. Okay, you can easily remember from the term lingula. Okay, L for left lung, remember as L for left lung. Okay, and UL, upper lobe of left lung. Upper lobe of left lung. Okay, fine. Now, the one more possible sub-question for the lingula will be, what are the two bronchopulmonary segments present within the lingula? Anybody? What are the bronchopulmonary segments present within the lingula? Yes, one is called a superior lingular segment. Another bronchopulmonary segment is called as inferior lingular. Inferior lingular. So superior lingular and inferior lingular. Fine. Yes. Now, anybody? This is a very common spotters question. Are you able to see one downward extension from the hilum of the left lung? From the hilum of left lung, what is the pinned structure? Yes, this is the pulmonary ligament. Okay, the structure pinned here is pulmonary ligament. Pulmonary ligament. Okay, and the sub-question for the pulmonary ligament will be, okay, so first of all, tell me what is pulmonary ligament. So pulmonary ligament is a, okay, it is a fold of mediastinal pleura. This is the mediastinal surface of the lung, right? So it is a fold of mediastinal pleura. Okay, extending downwards. Okay, extending downwards from where? Yes, extending downwards from the hilum of lungs. From the hilum or from the root of lungs, both lungs. Okay. So it is a fold of mediastinal pleura extending downwards from the hilum of lungs. Okay. Fine. And can you tell me the contents of the pulmonary ligament? The pulmonary ligament contains loose areolar tissue. Okay. It contains loose areolar tissue and lymphatics. It contains loose areolar tissue and some lymphatic vessels, few lymphatic vessels. Okay. And one more possible sub-question for the pulmonary ligament is, what is the importance or what is the significance of the pinned area? What is the importance of pulmonary ligament? Yes, the pulmonary ligament provides a dead space. Okay, it provides a dead space for what? Yes, it provides a dead space for the expansion of pulmonary veins. Okay, it provides a dead space for the expansion of pulmonary veins, especially okay, specifically during increased venous return. During increased venous return, as happens during exercise, severe exercise. Okay, so remember this point. Usual sub-question for the pulmonary ligament is, what is the importance of the pulmonary ligament, that is pinned structure? It provides a dead space for the expansion of pulmonary veins during increased venous return. Okay, fine. Let's move to the next sub-question. Any idea? What is the structure pinned here? Particular area behind the hilum of left lung. This is left lung, you know. Okay. So what is the impression? What is the structure producing the impression just behind the hilum of left lung? Exactly. It is produced by esophagus. It is produced by descending thoracic aorta. Okay. Just behind the hilum of the left lung. Okay. The impression is produced by descending thoracic aorta. Fine. If it is right lung, what will be the structure producing impression behind the hilum of right lung? Yes, it is esophagus. Okay. And here it is arch of aorta. Above the hilum of left lung, we have arch of aorta which continues downwards as descending thoracic aorta. Fine. That's the end of the spotters discussion. Thank you all.